G'day, it's Heath here from pickinglessons.com. In this guitar lesson, we're going to take a look at improvising up the neck. You've just heard a solo break for Worried Man Blues played out of the key of A, but up the neck using arpeggio shapes and scale positions out of the open position. We're not using a capo. Normally you may approach playing the key of A with a capo, but in this lesson we're not going to be doing that. We're working up the neck using chord shapes, and all this stuff is movable. So once you get the idea of how they all fit together, you can move this to any key you like, no capo needed. So as part of this lesson, we're going to take a look at 3 different major arpeggio chord shapes that will fit together, and we can put them together in a 1-4-5 sequence as we're using in this example. We'll take a look at a couple of scale shapes. We'll look at the major blues and the minor blues, and we'll look at some other passing notes in the chromatic scale as well. And we'll really incorporate the flat 3, flat 5 and flat 7 notes, the really blues sounding notes that can create a nice dissonance in our playing. So we're going to take a look at all of those. So first of all, if you head on over to pickinglessons.com, you're going to find a whole lot of supporting material to help us along the way with these lessons. So first of all, you're going to find the arrangement of the break that I played at the beginning of the video for Worried Man Blues Up the Neck. You also find a worksheet where we do cover the 3 positions of the major arpeggios we're going to learn, and also the major and minor blues scales, and talking about how the flat 3, flat 5, flat 7 fit inside what we're doing and how we're fitting that all together. So pickinglessons.com, and you'll also find the next 2 video lessons after this one where we're going to take a look at the next 2 major chords we're using up the neck. So pickinglessons.com. So up first, let's take a look at the chord shape we're going to be using for our 1 chord. So we're in the key of A, and we're going to be taking a look at this arpeggio here, this chord shape. It looks like the F chord, but we're playing it up at fret 7 with our 3rd finger. So we don't need to hold that chord shape when we're playing. Remember, we were improvising, so we're playing melody, so we're not needing to hold that chord shape, but we are going to learn where those notes are so that we can reference them in our playing. So we're at fret 7, so it's the root note for our position. So that note there is an A. As we move our way through, our 2nd finger plays the 3rd string there on fret 6, and that's the 3rd note in the chord. And our 1st finger plays fret 5 on string 2, and then we have fret 5 on string 1. So a major chord is built with the 1st, 3rd and 5th notes of the scale, of the major scale. And so we have our root note, 1st note, the 3rd note, the 5th note, and then we're back to the root note again on top. So seeing those notes is really important. They're really the glue that holds your melody together. If you keep coming back to these notes and referencing these notes over the A chord in this example, you'll find that it really ties together what you're playing, and you can bring in lots of other passing notes from the chromatic scale or the blues scales, and coming back and referencing those notes in your chord is what's going to sound great. And that's a 4-string arpeggio right there. Okay, so there's our arpeggio position. The next thing we're going to do is look at how we can bring in the flat 3. And the flat 3, or the minor 3rd, creates a really bluesy sound. So the major 3rd, remember, we had was our 2nd finger there on string 3. And so to bring in the minor 3rd, the flat 3, we find that 1 semitone lower. So that will be on fret 5 in this position. So let's include that in our arpeggio shape. So we've got root note, flat 3, major 3, 5 and 1. So already starting to sound a little bluesier. Flat 3 on fret 5, major 3rd there next door on fret 6, through the 5th and the root note again. Okay, so we've got this arpeggio shape, up in the A position, root note, flat 3, 3, 5 and 1. At this point here, let's take a quick look at the major blues scale. So the major blues scale sounds like that. Essentially, it's the major pentatonic scale, but we'll also include the flat 3. So starting on string 6 for this scale shape, let's have a slow run through. So that gets us over all 6 strings. In this example, we're really focusing on the top 4 strings, but learning that whole position is nice. So spend some time on the whole position of the scale when you can play it up the neck, reverse it, and come back down as well. Okay, so we have our major arpeggio in the key of A at fret 7. We're going to include our flat 3 to that position. And we're going to also use notes from the major blues pentatonic scale. So there's our 3 parts that we're really going to use as a foundation for these licks. So understand how that major arpeggio fits inside your major blues scale, and how the flat 3 is only a semitone below your major 3rd. All this is consistent, so when we look at the other major chords, we're always going to find that flat 3, just a semitone below our major 3rd. So understanding how the arpeggio is built and where those notes lie within the shape of the arpeggio is really important. Remember, we're always going to be coming back and referencing these notes from the chord, and the other notes are passing notes. So when you're improvising and when you're playing a melody, you'll find that the important notes that we want to resolve our playing to and emphasize are from the chord, and then the other notes in the scale and the chromatic scale and the bluesy notes we're going to treat as passing notes. And we always want to come back to those notes from inside the chord at some point to reference them. It really holds together the melody. Okay, so let's have a look at some of the ideas over this A chord from the beginning intro there, the Warrior Blues solo. So the first few bars sound like this. So that is all out of this position here for the A arpeggio, and we're using that portion of the blues, major blues scale. Okay, so let's break it down. So we're starting off here on our root note, this little hammer-on lick, and if we analyze that, we're starting on our root note, hammering on from flat 3 to major 3, stopping there for a little bit on the 5th note of the arpeggio. We step back to the major 3rd, and we're moving up into our root note there on the top of the arpeggio. Then we keep moving up, and we're going to move up. That's actually a major 3rd again. That's the octave there of the major 3rd. And we're using our passing notes from the pentatonic scale. There's your flat 3 into the major 3rd. Coming back down via that flat 3, passing note from the scale into the root note of the arpeggio. So from the top. So as those licks and phrases developed, I'm coming back into the chord shape, and I'm focusing my attention on the fact that this chord shape, we have the notes lying here, and we're rolling into those notes, coming back into those. And we could have done it in a number of ways. I'm kind of quoting the melody from Warrior Man Blues, but I wasn't sticking to it too exact. I'm using more bluesy notes, as you can probably tell. But the melody there in Warrior Man Blues was a little bit of a guide, but in general, even if there was no melody you were following, you're just improvising, completely improvising, you could just be following those notes from the chord again, and it's going to sound okay. Just resolve to one of those at different points in your playing. Alright, so if you head on over to pickinlessons.com, you're going to find all the material for this lesson. So first of all, you've got the arrangement there of the solo break over Warrior Man Blues Up the Neck. So there's the full tab for that. And we've got a worksheet that incorporates the 3 major chord arpeggios we're going to learn. We've already learnt the first one. and the major and minor blues scales, and talking about how the flat 3 and the flat 7 and the flat 5 fit inside of all those. And you'll find the next 2 videos where we do break down the next 2 major arpeggios and the passing notes and the other scales we're using in those shapes. So pickandlessons.com, I'll see you there.